Namaste, Hari Om, Jai Shri Krishna, and a massive hello and welcome to you all to this holistic wellness workshop all about embracing cyclical living. My name is Jyoti and I am the founder of My Wellness Company. I'm a yoga teacher, a holistic wellness mentor, a meditation teacher, and I teach the 8 limbs of yoga, which empowers my students on a journey of introspection as they come home to themselves and learn how to take yoga off the mat. So I do this using yogic philosophy, Ayurveda, and a range of holistic wellness practices, including meditation, pranayama, journaling, moon circles, menstrual cycle coaching, and more. So today we will begin by chanting 3 Oms and saying the Gayatri mantra, followed by a grounding meditation. As many of you may know, we chant Om because it is the universal sound. It has the same vibrational frequency as the universe, and research has proven that it has a calming effect, and it also slows down the nervous system, and it improves concentration. Mantra is made up of 2 words. Man means mind and tra means instrument. So mantra means instrument of the mind. These sacred sounds prepare our body and our mind for meditation, as well as improving concentration and memory, reducing anxiety, and so much more. So come to get into a comfortable position. And if you are sat on a chair or perhaps on the sofa, just make sure that your feet are flat on the ground. If you're sat on the floor or perhaps on your bed, come into a comfortable seated position, perhaps crossing your legs. And when you're ready, come to close your eyes. And your hands can be in your laps, whether your palms are facing up or down is completely up to you, whatever feels good in this moment. And with every inhale, begin to lengthen through the body, growing nice and tall through the spine. And with every exhale, soften slightly into your posture. So relaxing through the shoulders, through the jaw, the forehead. So we're comfortable yet alert. Bring your awareness to your body, to all the different points where your body is making contact with your seat. And allow your body to grow heavy on the mat. To sink a little deeper into your seat. And then bring your awareness to your breath, simply noticing it. Is it long or short, deep or shallow? Not changing it in any way, just being aware of it. And we'll begin by chanting 3 Oms followed by the Gayatri mantra. You can follow along if you wish, or you can simply listen. When you're ready, inhale. 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 Om Bhurbhuva Swaha Tatsya Viture Vareniham Bhargo devasya dhimahi Diyo yo naha prachodaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Allow your breath to return back to normal and just notice how you're feeling. How do you feel now compared to the beginning of this workshop? And once again, bring your awareness back to the breath. And notice all the 4 parts of the breath cycle. We have our inhale, the slight pause, exhale, and a slight pause again before the cycle begins again. So see if you can just follow this breath cycle for a few moments. And notice where you can feel the breath the strongest. So perhaps it's at the back of your throat, in your chest, your tummy, the tip of your nostrils, your upper lip. Wherever you feel the breath the strongest, I want you to hold your awareness here. So this is going to be your anchor. Hold your awareness there just for a few minutes as we follow the cycle of the breath. And you may notice that your mind begins to wander, and that's okay. The point of meditation is not to clear our mind, it's to have an awareness of what our mind is doing. So as soon as you notice, with love and kindness and compassion, gently bring your awareness back to your anchor and back to your breath. And gently let go of the breath. Allow the mind to do whatever it wishes for a few moments. And once again, just take note of how you're feeling now compared to the beginning of the practice. Hopefully you're feeling a little calmer and more present and in your body. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So welcome again to today's workshop. Today we're going to be looking at cyclical living. And first we'll be covering what cyclical living actually is, how to connect to the cycles of Mother Nature, how to connect to the cycles of the moon, and how to connect to your menstrual cycle and its many gifts. So before we begin, if you haven't already, please do grab a pen and paper or a journal, something for you to write in. And then we're going to write ourselves a permission slip. So for this session, what are you going to give yourself permission to do? So it could be that you give yourself permission to be fully present, move any distractions, any other devices out of the way, and just be fully present for the next hour or so. Perhaps it's to be really honest with yourself. We'll be doing a couple of journaling exercises. So perhaps during those, you're going to be really, really honest with yourself. So whatever it is, just take a moment now to write it down, and I'll also do the same. Okay, so let's begin with what is cyclical living? Now, everything in our creation, in this world that we live in, happens in cycles. The seasons, the moon, our menstrual cycle, the breath cycle, we just looked at that now in our meditation, the cycle of life, and so on. And within Vedantic philosophy, we also have the three energies. We have creation, sustaining, and the destroyer. So Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. These three energies. And when we say Om Shanti, 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 we are wishing peace upon all of these energies, upon our entire creation. Now, with cyclical living, we tune into these cycles and we embrace them. We work with the ebbs and flows rather than against them. These cycles are always going to happen. So if we can learn to work with them, then life can be filled with more ease, more pleasure, and more joy. So the first way we can connect with these cycles is with the cycles of Mother Nature, with the seasons. Now, I used to be a primary school teacher, and we teach children about the cycles of nature, about the seasons, when they're around 6 years old. They learn what changes during these seasons and how animals in the wild change their behaviours as well. And many, many years ago, in this country, in England, we would have done the same. We would have really adjusted our lifestyle depending on the seasons. But this kind of wisdom and knowledge has been lost, especially in the West. And for many of us, we have a favourite season or a couple of seasons, and we generally dislike one or two of the other ones. So for me, I know that I love summer and I love spring. So as the weather gets warmer, I feel like I'm really in my element and I feel just much more happier and lighter. So before I was kind of aware of this practice of cyclical living, I really used to resist the other seasons. I would complain about how cold it was. I would almost deny that it was happening. You know, obviously we're living in England. The British love to talk about the weather, but I really used to complain so much. And I could complain as much as I want. It wasn't going to stop the cold coming. So with cyclical living, I learnt to rather tune into the energies of these seasons. I learnt to appreciate each season for its gifts, and this has allowed my life to be filled with much more ease and flow. So we have spring, the season that we're in now. This is a time for new beginnings, for renewal, and for growth. Our energy levels begin to grow, and we feel like going out a bit more into the world. We do our spring clean, and we're ready to be seen again. We have summer, a time of celebration, joy, and gratitude. Our energy levels are at the highest point in this season. We're ready for action and adventure. For me, I associate summer with going on holiday, with wedding season, and just being with friends and family and really celebrating anything and everything. We move into autumn, a time to edit and let go of what no longer serves you. And it's only through letting go, through allowing things to be destroyed, that new things can come into our life. So if you think about what happens in nature, the trees lose their leaves and animals begin to prepare their food ready to hibernate. So for us as humans, our energy levels are beginning to drop as we prepare for rest, as we prepare for that winter phase. Then we move into winter, a time to rest, reflect, and reset. Our energy levels are at their lowest as we slowly retreat and hibernate from the world. Whilst we do, of course, normally go out and see people, we probably prefer a quiet night in rather than going out every night in winter. Now, of course, this is just a rough guide. It's not to say that in winter we can't celebrate. It's not to say that in summer we can't rest and so on. It's just kind of the general feel and energy in the atmosphere. So then we move on to the cycles of the moon. Now, the moon is 4.5 billion years old. She is ancient, wise, and beautiful. And I say she for the moon because in yogic philosophy, it's explained that each person has a masculine and feminine energy within them, regardless of what gender they identify as. So our masculine side is our sun side, and it's the right side of the body in Hatha Yoga. And the left side of the body is our moon side, is our feminine side. So the purpose of yoga is to balance this solar and lunar energy. So back to the moon, she controls the tides, she gives us the seasons, and she gives us our 24-hour days. Without the moon, our days would be about 8 hours long. And if she can do all of that for the earth, then just imagine the effect she has on us as humans. We are made up predominantly of water. We consist of the 5 elements that are present in the earth that we see. They're all within us. So how could we not be affected by the moon and her energies? And further to this, we as women are intrinsically connected to the moon. She has around a 29-day cycle, and this mirrors our menstrual cycle. So she has 4 main phases, as do we in our menstrual cycle, which you'll see in a moment. So each of these phases has a different effect on our emotions, on our energy, and within the menstrual cycle on our hormones. Whereas men, they have more of a 24-hour cycle, so they more follow the cycle of the sun. And for me, when I learned this, it really blew my mind. I'd often wondered if my cycles were connected to the moon because I'd started to notice patterns every month, certain thoughts would come up at a certain time and so on and so forth. So learning this was really transformational for me. So if we just go through the cycles of the moon. Let's begin at the new moon. A time for new beginnings, for planting seeds and for setting intentions. It's the lowest energy point of the cycle. So at the new moon and the sun are at the same point in the sky, so we don't see the moon. So it's a time to go inwards, to really think about what it is that we want and to write these down. This is such a powerful practice. We can write down our goals, our intentions, whatever word you wish to use here, and just start to kind of put that energy out there into the world. Then we move to the waxing moon. As the moon grows bigger in the sky, this is often called the days of light, and it's a time for creation, for expansion, and for action. Our energy begins to grow here. We're ready to come out into the world. It's that spring energy that we were just talking about, and we can start to look at these intentions and put them into practice. Then we move to the full moon, and this is a time for celebration and gratitude. The moon is the biggest that she'll be in the sky, and she's inviting us to also show our whole selves and to really celebrate ourselves for all the things that perhaps we've achieved since the new moon, since those intentions we set. We can look back at them, see what's come into fruition, and celebrate those. It's the highest energy point. And at this point, the sun and the moon are opposite each other in the sky. And then finally, we move into the waning moon. So as the moon grows darker in the sky, so often again known as the days of darkness, this is a time for letting go, for shedding, and for releasing. So kind of thinking about what hadn't come into fruition from our intentions and why, and letting go of those things that got in our way. And so often it's ourselves. If we're really, really honest with ourselves, we've perhaps allowed our inner critic to take over and really listen to it. Perhaps we've self-sabotaged, we've procrastinated, whatever it is that might have got in the way. our energy also begins to deplete here, and we sort of come more inwards towards ourselves. So here we have the moon phases, and a really lovely way to celebrate these different cycles is to join a moon circle. So I host moon circles every new and full moon, but there's so many out there. You can join whichever one you feel called to. And it can be really powerful to come together in community to actually do these practices, to set our intentions, to celebrate or to release whatever it is you're doing. Then we move to the menstrual cycle. And the phases of this cycle are much like the seasons in the year and the moon cycle, as you can see. And for those of you who perhaps don't have a menstrual cycle for health reasons, perhaps you're going through the menopause or have gone through it, or perhaps you're using a hormonal contraceptive, you can use this wisdom that I'm about to share using the moon phases. So the menstruation phase is the new moon has the same energies as the new moon phase and is also known as your inner winter. Pre-ovulation is the inner spring and is known as the waxing moon, or rather has the energy of the waxing moon phase. Ovulation is our inner summer and has that full moon energy. And pre-menstruation is our inner autumn and has that waning moon energy. So we're going to go through each of these in turn. So menstruation, your inner winter, that new moon energy. So this marks the end of our last cycle, the beginning of our next cycle. And your first day of bleeding is day 1. And if you don't already track your cycles, I really encourage you to start. And it can be really lovely to use a journal to do this. So on each day, you can write the date and write day 1, day 2, so on, and write how you're feeling. So perhaps physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, how are you feeling? And within 2 to 3 cycles, you'll start to notice patterns. So you might notice that on day 25, your energy levels are really low and you need to, where possible, shut off from the world. And then you can start tracking roughly when day 25 should fall, depending on how regular your cycle is. And you can start to live more cyclically and really embrace that energy. So instead of questioning, oh my goodness, why do I feel like this? Am I going crazy or whatever? You understand and you've tuned into what's happening for you and you honor that. And if we really rest and replenish and repair during this phase, we can enter the next cycle feeling refreshed. We can enter the next phase, our spring phase, ready to embrace that energy. And as I mentioned before, everything in life is cyclical. One thing must end for another to begin. And our bleed time is exactly this. And that's pretty amazing. We have our own inbuilt self-renewal system where we strip away the layers of who we thought we were and journey closer to our true selves. Every month we have the chance to do this. So let's look at the science of this phase. This is, as I said, when you are bleeding, and that marks day 1 of your cycle. It lasts about 3 to 9 days. It depends on every individual person. And it's the lowest energy point. Your estrogen and progesterone levels are at the lowest, as you can see here. So during our menstruation, our hormone levels rather, are pretty low. So each phase of our cycle has its own superpowers. And once you tap into them, you will hopefully learn to love every stage of your cycle, even this menstruation phase. So in this phase, our superpowers are our intuition is so strong during this time. We are highly, highly intuitive beings. We've just often lost touch with it because of this outward facing world that we live in. We're told to look outside of ourselves for answers, especially as women. But all the answers we have, or we need rather, are inside us. And once we start to tap into that, it can be so, so powerful. So try, where possible, to tune in to your body. And during this phase, you'll also feel clearer on your purpose and any decisions that you have to make. So if you do have a big decision to make and it's sort of around the time that you know you're going to bleed, perhaps try waiting, if that's a possibility, to see how you feel. So instead of sleeping on it, try bleeding on it and see if it brings you some more clarity. And this is a great time to release, to reset, and to set intentions. So much like that new moon phase, we can think about what it is we want to bring into our life, and we can write these down. Now, the practical applications. Nourishing your body. Now, our dharma, if we want to perform our dharma to the best of our ability, we need to be able to look after our bodies. We need our bodies to be healthy, to feel good, because only then can we perform our other actions and our other duties. So it's not selfish to take some time for yourself, even though it can be really difficult, and I completely understand, to actually take some time for yourself. And even if that's only 15 or 30 minutes, try where possible to take this time for you, especially during those first 3 days of your cycle. Have a bath, journal, meditate. I find meditating in this phase I feel much more connected to myself, and I'm able to meditate easier, so to speak, in this phase than any other. And it's just really nice to close your eyes and just tune in and notice how your body's feeling, and perhaps any messages, anything your intuition is trying to tell you. It can also be really lovely to practice yin yoga, so really slow, restorative yoga. You don't want to be doing a HIIT session, say, during this time. If you feel like you've got the energy to, go ahead, of course. For me personally, I know I just need to take a couple of days to do nothing, and then I can slowly start practicing some really slow movement. And a couple of yoga poses that are really, really lovely to do here are Balasana, so child's pose, and Supta Baddha Konasana, so reclining bound angle. So where your soles of your feet are together, the legs are out wide like a butterfly, and you just lay on your back, arms wherever feels comfortable, and just enjoy this pose. It can be really nice to pop cushions under your knees or under your chest area for child's pose, and just really relax, almost meditate in these poses. It's also important that we learn to say no. So as I was saying, we need to look after ourselves and our bodies. So practice saying no. A no is a whole sentence, so don't feel guilty about it. And then we can also plan for the cycle ahead. So once you kind of have a bit more energy, perhaps from day 3 onwards, you can figure out when your next cycle will be, when kind of the different phases are that we're about to talk about, and think about, okay, say you're launching a product or you've got a really big meeting or presentation at work, can you try and schedule it so it's more in your summer phase or spring phase rather than your autumn phase, and so on. So see if you can start to plan your weeks as best as you can, of course. The world that we live in isn't quite set up for this, but to the best of your ability, can you plan for this? Then we move into our pre-ovulation phase. So this is our inner spring, our waxing moon energy. So your body here is preparing for ovulation. The lining is beginning to thicken, and there's a gradual increase in estrogen, and testosterone increases on the last few days. So if we just have a look again, we have estrogen rising, testosterone rises right towards the end of this phase. So this phase is roughly days 6 to 13. And the superpowers of this phase. This phase is full of hope, full of possibility and potential. It's that real, true spring vibe as you slowly feel ready to get back out into the world. There's a playful energy here. It's a great time for implementation. You have more patience, more drive and determination. So think about those intentions that you've set in the winter phase. How can you start to put them into action? Your energy is really going to help you to do this, especially if you rested during your winter phase. There's a real playful energy here as well, and your energy is beginning to rise, your physical energy. So practically, this is a great time to try new things. So if you've always wanted to try a specific exercise class, go ahead and do it now. If you've always wanted to take up pottery or filmmaking or whatever it is, a new skill, have a go at it in this phase. It's really going to work for you because of that playful energy. It's a great time to connect from others. You're coming out of that period cave. You feel like connecting again with your loved ones. And another lovely thing to do is to make a less and more list. And this is what we are going to do now. So on your piece of paper or your journal, draw a line down the middle and write less on the left and more on the right. And starting with the left column, what do you know you need to be doing less of? What would you like to let go of? What's not working? And what doesn't feel good? I want you to write down everything that comes to mind. No one has to see this, it's just for you. So just allow whatever comes into your mind to go onto the page. Okay, then on the more side, let's think about what do you feel like having more of right now? What would you like to invite into your life? What's working and what feels good? So again, just write from a stream of consciousness, whatever comes into your mind, allow it to flow onto the page. And once you've done that, you might like to circle 3 things in your less column that you'd like to spend less time and energy on, and 3 things in the more column that you'd like to spend more time and energy on. And then here's a question that I'll leave you with for after this workshop. What needs to happen to make these ideas a reality? What needs to happen to make these ideas a reality? What do you need to do? And then if you do this in your spring phase, you can really use that spring energy to take it into action. Of course, you can take it into action right now as well. You don't have to wait for your spring phase at all. Then let's move on to our ovulation phase. This is our inner summer, full moon energy, that really lovely summer vibe. So here, our estrogen levels peak and an egg is released. Testosterone also peaks, and after ovulation, progesterone is released. So if we have a look, we have testosterone peaking, estrogen begins to fall after ovulation, it reaches its peak, and post-ovulation, so ovulation's almost split into 2. We have our ovulation where the egg is released, and then the post-ovulation, so after this happens, progesterone also begins to build. And superpowers of this phase. Creativity. During this phase, you are going to be feeling really creative. And that doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to want to create a piece of art. Creativity can take many forms. So tap into this and perhaps think about what would it mean to show 5% more of yourself in the world. How can you do that? How can you express yourself or express 5% more of yourself? It's a great time for connection and communication. You're going to probably want to be seeing your friends, your family, and to be spending time with others. Whereas in your winter phase, generally you'll feel like just being alone with yourself. In this phase, you can be seeing everyone and anyone. You're going to feel like you are queen of the world, like you are Superwoman and you can do anything and everything. That doesn't mean that you have to do anything and everything, of course. So, how can we actually put this into practical application? A great thing to do here is to do some of those tasks that you've been putting off. Those things that in your head you've built up that are going to take hours, but will probably in reality take about 10 minutes. Get them done. Say yes to opportunities here, but do leave space in your diary to have fun. So as I said, just because you can do all of the things because your energy allows for this, it doesn't mean that you need to be doing everything. It's also a great time to meal prep. So during the next phase, autumn, and during our winter phase, you're going to have less energy. So you can kind of help to balance this out by meal prepping, and your future self will really thank you for this. And another great thing is to celebrate your successes. So much like I was saying at the full moon, we look back at our intentions, see what wonderful things have happened, and we celebrate them. It's a really great time to do this. So that's what we're going to do now. We are going to write a gratitude list. So on your paper, in your journal, you could just write gratitude list or whatever title you like, and then just write all the things that you are grateful for in your life, from huge things to tiny things like a sip of tea, to the people in your life, the things in your life, the things that have happened at work, in personal life, etc. Write them all down onto the page, and I'll do this as well. So you can, of course, carry on with that after the session. We'll stop here for now with the gratitude list. And this is a really lovely practice to do at any time. Practicing gratitude can be so powerful. It really helps to start to shift our mindset so that we look for the good. And the final phase is pre-menstrual. Inner autumn, the waning moon energy. And this is the phase of the cycle that gets a bad rep. And for those of you who experience PMS symptoms, mood swings, bloating, and so on, it can be really, really difficult. But this is also a powerful time as well. This phase and our inner winter phase are the more feminine parts of our cycle. They're the times where we turn inwards, whereas the spring and the summer phases are more masculine. They're more outward facing. Our energy is more outwards. So in our autumn phase, there's a shift from doing to being. And this can be difficult, especially in the society that we live in, where we are expected to perform at the same rate all the time, no matter what. So, and also for us in general, because we've just been in that summer phase where we're able to sort of do it all, and slowly our energy starts to deplete, and it can be difficult to accept that we can't do as much as we could just a few days ago. Or if we do that, we're really going to burn ourselves out. So in this phase, progesterone will continue to rise and then it will fall along with estrogen if you're not pregnant. And this is approximately day 21 till you bleed. So as I said, this can be a really, really powerful time. It calls us back into our body. So during spring and summer, we tend to spend a lot of time outwards. We can forget about our self-care practices. We can kind of get a bit carried away in just the pure joy of everything. So this kind of calls us back to ourselves so that we can be more present and prepare to bleed. Much like in autumn, when animals prepare to hibernate and so on, we are preparing to bleed. And this can be a great time for life editing and for organizing. So it's a great time to just take a breath to assess how are things really going in your life. You're going to be less tolerant and more sensitive at this time, but that's not a bad thing. It's good to know what it is that you don't want or what it is that you don't desire. That is just as powerful as knowing what you do want. So listen to those niggles and allow removal. That's the only thing that will create space for the new to come in. It's a real time of truth telling and setting boundaries. You might have some epiphanies during this time, as I said, if you listen to those niggles. And for some, it can feel like their most like realist and unapologetic self here. So in this time, you can use that critical eye, that kind of life editing vibe, to edit documents, to declutter, to really start to put things into motion and organize. Also learning to say no more often, as we mentioned in the winter phase, because you're going to probably want to spend some more time with yourself. So don't be afraid to say no, because you just want to have a night in on your own. And do leave some wiggle room in your day to allow for this. And as things come up in this phase, write it down. So your inner critic can be quite loud in this phase. We often worry that we're being seen as too much, while at the same time, we're also worried that we're not enough. So it's a really great time to make a list of the things that your inner critic is saying. And then in spring, when you make that more than, less than list, revisit this autumn list and take any action that you feel called to take. So this is where we can really start to use the phases of our cycle to our benefit. So really notice what comes up and write it down. And throughout the whole cycle, it's really important that we nourish our bodies, that we look after our liver. Our liver is going to be eliminating excess hormones. So specifically in the premenstrual phase, try to kind of eat those foods that are really great for your liver, limit your alcohol intake, and so on. You can also do castor oil packs. These are really, really great. If you just Google it, lots of information will come up about them. And you can also do something called seed cycling. So this involves eating different seeds at different phases of your cycle, which can help to regulate them. It can help to reduce pain and so on. And another practice that helps to regulate your cycles is a pranayam called Kapalbhati. So we're going to have a quick go at this now. And just come into a comfortable seated position again. Make sure your back is nice and straight, growing nice and tall with every inhale and relaxing slightly with every exhale. Taking note of your breath again. Just being aware of it, not changing it in any way. And we're going to do 10 short, sharp exhalations. The inhalation will happen by default. Now, if you suffer from high blood pressure, heart disease, then don't do this practice. Just sit quietly and enjoy sitting in meditation. So when you're ready, 10 short, sharp exhalations. Inhale and exhale completely, and then allow your breath to return back to its natural rhythm. And we'll do this one more time whenever you're ready. Gently allowing your breath to return back to its natural rhythm. Just noticing how you're feeling. This is also a really energizing breathing technique. So you can do it at any point of the day where you need a little boost of energy. And open your eyes when you're ready. So regular practice of this for 5 to 10 minutes a day can help to regulate your menstrual cycle. And the final point is that most importantly, you want to connect to yourself and your own cycles. So use the information that I have provided as a guide. Ultimately, no one knows how you're feeling better than you. As I said, all the wisdom you need is already inside you. You don't need me here telling you. So perhaps you'll find, as I said, this is just a guide. So you might find that in your inner summer, you don't feel your best, and that's okay. That's completely normal. Lots of people don't feel that high summer energy vibe. You might not feel like celebrating at the full moon, and that's okay. You do you. Do what works best for you on any given day. Our cycles are always changing, and what matters most is that you're connected to your own cycle and that you honor your own cycle. So with that, we will end with the Shanti mantra. So coming to close the eyes when you're ready. Nice comfortable position. Big inhale. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you all so much for joining me. I really hope that these ideas have sparked something inside you, perhaps a sense of inner knowing. This knowledge is deeply ingrained in all of us, so start to tap into it and enjoy the gifts and the joy that it provides. If you have any questions or any comments, or you want to explore my offerings or perhaps work with me, then please do get in touch via any of the channels shown on the screen. You can email me, DM me on Instagram, and check out my website for everything that you need to know. Thank you again for joining and have a wonderful rest of your day. Namaste.